Okay, so I've had a number of people today that have asked me questions about the Ulnar Paradox situation, and it's not something that's easy to describe over email, so I'm putting this short little YouTube video together to give you an explanation of what's going on. When we talk about ulnar nerve injuries, that's going to affect the intrinsic muscles of the hands, a couple of the lumbricals, and then the dorsal and palmar interossei. What you have to remember is that all of these muscles act together to flex the metacarpophalangeal joints and extend the interphalangeal joints. So if we lose this intrinsic muscle tone and this ability to contract, then our long digital flexors and our long digital extensor is going to take over, and it pulls the hand into a contracture position that we call the claw hand. In the case of a very specific ulnar nerve injury, you have to remember that the lateral two lumbricals are innervated by the median nerve. So we might get a little bit of clawing, but not nearly as much as what we see in the last two digits. So, again, extension at the metacarpophalangeal joint, flexion at the interphalangeal joints because of the loss of the intrinsic musculature. Now here's where the paradox comes in. This would be the situation if the ulnar nerve is damaged at the wrist and we still have all of our long digital flexors in place. If we have an injury that is proximal to the elbow, we lose our innervation supply to the flexor digitorum profundus on the ulnar side of the forearm. So what does that muscle do? Those are the tendons that go to the end of the digits and insert on the distal interphalanges and cause flexion of the distal interphalanges. So if this muscle becomes paralyzed, we lose our ability to flex the distal interphalanges. We still are able to flex the proximal interphalanges because we still have flexor digitorum superficialis. That's completely done by the median nerve, but we've lost the distal flexion. This is the ulnar paradox in that the clawing deformation is not nearly as severe as when it's proximal to the wrist. Sorry, distal to the wrist. So, a proximal nerve injury, no flexor digitorum profundus to these two digits, and therefore no distal flexion. Distal nerve injury, we still have our flexor digitorum profundus and we have more clawing. That's the ulnar paradox. Proximal injury, less clawing. Distal injury, more clawing. And one final note that is not to be confused with the hand of benediction. The ulnar claw is a passive situation where the muscles are in contracture. The hand of benediction is an active sign where you ask the person to make a fist and they have minimal flexion of digits 2 and 3 in that situation because of the loss of the median nerve up at the level of the elbow. And if it's a long-standing injury, you're probably also going to see wasting of the thenar eminence, the ape hand deformity, which all goes together. Hopefully this explanation is helpful, and good luck with your studies.